How did a country that once struggled to find enough rice to eat, where people lined up to exchange ration coupons for a few drops of oil, manage to rise and become one of the fastest-growing economies in the world? In just a few decades, from the depths of poverty, Vietnam has emerged step by step as a rising star in Asia's economic landscape. This isn't just a story about economics or infrastructure. It's a story of resilience, of an unyielding desire to rise, and of a faith that never faltered, shared by an entire nation. Welcome to Top 10 Discoveries Official. I'm James, and in today's video, we're diving into the extraordinary journey of a resilient and unstoppable nation called Vietnam. One, it is not by chance that Vietnam has a place on the world map today. It came at the cost of blood, tears, and heroic yet painful chapters of history. For over 1,000 years under Chinese domination, from 111 BC to 938 AD, followed by nearly a century under French colonial rule, 1858 to 1954, the Vietnamese people lived in slavery, poverty, exploitation, and were stripped of their most basic rights to life. The 20th century continued to witness two devastating wars, against the French, 1945 to 1954, and then against the Americans, 1955 to 1975. More than 3 million people lost their lives, tens of millions were separated from their families, the country was divided, and bombs ravaged the land from north to south. In April 1975, the war ended, and the country was reunified. But before the joy of independence could be fully realized, the nation was immediately confronted with another harsh battle: hunger, poverty, and an economy that was almost entirely paralyzed. Everyone relied on ration cards, rotten rice, second-hand goods, and walked barefoot. These were not metaphors, but the harsh reality. A country unified geographically, yet fractured economically, backward in technology, financially exhausted, and completely isolated from the world. A country unified in terms of geography, yet divided economically, impoverished, underdeveloped, and entirely cut off from the outside world. At that time, Vietnam was a nation on the brink of collapse. 2. After the country's reunification in 1975, many hoped for a period of revival. But in reality, a dark shadow fell over the Vietnamese people: prolonged poverty, helplessness, and stagnation. Entering the 1980s, Vietnam plunged into a comprehensive crisis. There was a severe shortage of food and poverty became normalized. Millions survived on ration cards, millet, and moldy rice. In 1979, the Northern Border War with China broke out, further draining resources already depleted by 30 years of continuous warfare. While Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore were taking off, Vietnam seemed trapped in darkness. From 1979 through the end of the 1980s, Vietnam remained under a complete economic embargo. The United States and the West froze all relations. With no capital, no technology, and no market access, the country was absolutely isolated both economically and diplomatically. The period from 1985 to 1988 marked the deepest low. Inflation surpassed 700%. The currency devalued daily. Wages couldn't even afford a basic meal. The savings of millions of families vanished within weeks. Black markets sprang up everywhere, yet were deemed illegal. Business was strangled, and production came to a standstill. There was no market, no freedom to trade, no way out. While the world was accelerating, Vietnam remained almost motionless, sinking deeper into crisis. With no other option, hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese went abroad to work, from the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe to the Middle East, sending back every hard-earned penny to support their families back home. A nation that had just triumphed in war was now suffering a crushing defeat in peace. We had reached rock bottom, economically, in spirit, and in global standing. But what astonished the world the most was that even in such darkness, Vietnam did not collapse. We were hungry, we were poor, we had fallen, but we never gave up. At a time when the entire nation was being suffocated by poverty and stagnation, in 1986, during the 6th National Congress of the party, Vietnam made a bold decision, a historic turning point that changed the destiny of the country, the Doi Moi renovation policy. It was not merely an economic model shift, it was a comprehensive revolution. Vietnam decisively abandoned the outdated subsidized economy, opened up to the world, and embraced a market-oriented mechanism. In 1987, the Foreign Investment Law was introduced, flinging open the doors to global integration. From just 10 million USD, FDI surged to nearly 2 billion USD by the early 1990s. More than 30,000 private enterprises were established in less than 5 years. Millions of people, for the first time, could take control of their own economic fate, breaking free from ration cards and state subsidies. Vietnam gradually emerged from isolation. In 1993, it re-established ties with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank, WB. In 1994, the United States lifted its economic embargo. A year later, Vietnam joined ASEAN. This was followed by the Vietnam-US Bilateral Trade Agreement, 2000, accession to the WTO, 2007, and the signing of CPTPP, EVFTA, and RCEP, the world's largest trade agreements to date. It can be said that Doi Moi not only helped Vietnam survive, it revived a nation. Doi Moi took Vietnam from an economy on the brink of collapse and turned it into a rising star on the global growth map. A turning point that didn't just flip the page, it rewrote the entire development blueprint of the nation in the 21st century. Four, from a nation once engulfed in crisis, Vietnam has made a spectacular breakthrough that has astonished the world. From just a few billion US dollars in the post-war era, Vietnam's GDP in 2024 has surpassed 430 billion US dollars, a 68-fold increase compared to 1990, placing the country among the top 40 largest economies in the world and in the top 20 fastest-growing economies on the planet. A major turning point came in 2000 when Vietnam signed the Bilateral Trade Agreement with the United States, BTA. Then came 2007 when Vietnam joined the World Trade Organization, WTO, officially becoming part of the global economic flow. Despite the global financial crisis of 2008, Vietnam managed to maintain a positive growth rate of over 5%, a rare feat among developing economies. For more than 2 decades, Vietnam has sustained an annual economic growth rate of over 6%. Even during global disruptions like the financial crisis or the COVID-19 pandemic, 2020 to 2021, when many major economies fell into recession, Vietnam still maintained positive growth, demonstrating remarkable resilience. Once a country that relied on humanitarian aid, Vietnam has now transformed into a development partner, offering support to other nations in areas such as technology, agriculture, disaster prevention, and education. Exports clearly reflect this extraordinary progress. In 1990, export turnover was just 2.4 billion US dollars. By 2023, it had surpassed 360 billion US dollars, making Vietnam one of the world's top exporters. It's almost unimaginable. A nation that once stood in line for rice with ration coupons is now exporting smartphones and high-tech components to every corner of the globe. Vietnam is also one of the most attractive investment destinations in Asia, with cumulative FDI exceeding 450 billion US dollars from over 140 countries and territories. Vietnam's greatest strength lies not only in its economy, but in its people. With a population of over 100 million, more than 70% of whom are of working age, Vietnam possesses a rare, golden population structure. A literacy rate above 95%, rapid tech adaptability, and increasingly high skill levels form the foundation for Vietnam to evolve not just as a manufacturing hub, but as a creative powerhouse of the region. Once called a lowland of the global economy, Vietnam is now becoming one of Asia's rising stars. From a nation once on the brink, Vietnam is now moving forward, steadily, confidently, and full of ambition. 5. If numbers reflect Vietnam's economic rise, then its mega infrastructure projects are the tangible embodiment of a nation making a remarkable leap forward. Across the S-shaped stretch of land, once ravaged by bombs and haunted by poverty, a new Vietnam is emerging, illuminated by infrastructure projects of unimaginable scale and ambition. At the forefront is Long Thanh International Airport, a mega project with a total investment of $16 billion. Once completed, it is planned to rank among the world's 10 largest airports, with a passenger capacity of up to 100 million annually. In parallel, Vietnam is reshaping its entire national transportation system through the North-South Expressway, stretching over 2,100 kilometers and cutting through 32 provinces and cities. Not long ago, National Highway 1, the country's main artery, was a narrow, muddy, and perilous road. Today, modern expressways with 6 to 8 lanes are being constructed, linking key economic zones, accelerating the flow of goods and services, and ushering Vietnam into an era of hyperconnectivity. Major cities like Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, Binh Duong, and Da Nang are rolling out metro lines and smart urban projects in collaboration with top global partners such as Japan, South Korea, and Singapore. Beyond horizontal development, Vietnam is venturing boldly into technology and clean energy. Over 120 solar and wind power plants are already in operation nationwide, with a combined capacity exceeding 20 gigawatts, making Vietnam the leading renewable energy producer in Southeast Asia. What were once dreams are now materializing on Vietnamese soil. Every bridge, highway, railway, and seaport stands as a proud declaration. Vietnam is not just developing, it is shaping the future. The growing presence of global giants in technology, finance and manufacturing, Apple, Samsung, Intel, LG, Foxconn, Lego, and more, signals that Vietnam is no longer a temporary choice, but a long-term strategic hub in the global supply chain. A nation that once struggled to feed its people now owns multi-billion-dollar airports, expressways that span the country, in cities that look toward tomorrow. This is no miracle. It is the result of resilience, ambition, and the vision of a people determined to rise on their own 2 feet. Six, Vietnam has come a long way, from the ashes of war to its current global standing. But this journey is far from over. Ahead lies an even more ambitious destination: to become a high-income, developed nation by 2045, the 100th anniversary of the country's founding. This is not just an economic target, it is a national declaration that Vietnam refuses to remain forever a developing country. We have the capability, the courage, and the burning ambition to rise among the ranks of advanced and civilized nations. To realize this vision, Vietnam is undergoing a sweeping transformation on all fronts. A comprehensive digital transformation is being widely implemented with the goal of establishing a digital government, digital economy, and digital society, enhancing governance efficiency and labor productivity. At the same time, greening the economy is a vital objective, aimed at sustainable development through emission reductions, renewable energy adoption, and protecting the environment for future generations. Parallel to these efforts is investment in human capital, because no developed nation thrives without a population that is intelligent, ethical, and driven by aspiration. Vietnam is channeling its focus into education, research, technology, and innovation, with the aim of exporting intellectual power, not just low-cost goods. On the international stage, Vietnam continues to assert its growing presence. From a once isolated country, it is now an active member of ASEAN, APEC, CPTPP, and RCEP, and a strategic partner to many of the world's leading nations. Vietnam has also successfully hosted major global events, such as the 2019 US-North Korea Summit and SEA Games 31. Today, it is increasingly taking an active role in global issues like climate change, energy security, and regional peace. The 2045 aspiration is not merely about GDP, It is a vision of building a wealthy, civilized, and joyful Vietnam, where every citizen lives in safety, freedom, creativity, and pride. A country where no one is left behind. A society that is just, modern, and thriving. Vietnam is walking confidently into the future, on its own 2 feet, with the heart of a resilient nation and the mind of a country that dares to dream big. And the world will remember Vietnam not only for its heroic past, but for the radiant future that lies just ahead. From poverty to self-reliance, from the ashes of war to billion-dollar mega projects, Vietnam's journey is no miracle. It is the result of unwavering belief, determination, and an unbreakable will. And surely the road ahead still holds many challenges. But with resilience in its spirit, Vietnam is steadily moving closer to the 2045 dream, becoming a developed nation, standing proudly among the world's great powers. If this journey has inspired you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Top 10 Discoveries Official will be back soon with more emotional and eye-opening stories. See you in the next chapter of this incredible journey.